And good evening and welcome to this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show. My guest this evening is Sergeant Rob Derry from the Connecticut State Police. Sergeant Derry, how are you?
Peter, good to see you.
Good to see you, my friend. Good to see you, my friend. Always good. And Sergeant Derry, tell us a little bit about yourself as far as, obviously you're a sergeant with the Connecticut State Police, where you're based out of, and how long you've been involved with law enforcement.
Sure. I've been with the Connecticut State Police now. I'm just completed my 23rd year.
Okay.
Prior to that, I was a local police officer for an additional 5, so I've been in law enforcement for 28 years.
Wow.
I was a police officer in the town of East Granby, up by Bradley Airport, a small little town.
Sure.
Did that for just under 4 years, and I got hired by the Bloomfield Police Department, just north of Hartford, for just under a year before the state police process that I was going through for the selection process finally wrapped up. And in 1994, I was a recruit in the Connecticut State Police Academy. And then here we are, fast forward 23 years later, done a lot of tremendous assignments on this job and been exposed to a lot of unique things. And I'm very positive and optimistic about the career in law enforcement.
Right.
Even though a lot of the negative things that we do see as law enforcement officers. However, it's in 28 years of doing this, I can honestly say if I had to do it all over again, I would have done the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tremendous career. There's a lot of pride, there's a lot of heritage, tradition in the Connecticut State Police that we work hard for to maintain the integrity. Our troopers really work hard to further the mission of the State Police every single day.
And what is the mission of the Connecticut State Police?
Well, the mission of the State Police is to provide public safety and protect property throughout the state of Connecticut.
Okay.
And Connecticut's a little unique as opposed to many other states, whereas we don't really have a county system of government.
Right.
So out of the 169 towns that make up the state of Connecticut, we obviously know we do have county districts. However, there's no government within those districts. So we don't have county sheriffs, whereas other states would.
Right.
So in the smaller communities throughout Connecticut, basically half of the towns in Connecticut out of the 169 are primarily covered by state troopers. So, and that some of those towns are augmented by what's called town constables.
Yes.
Which are supervised and overseen by the state police.
Okay.
So here we are in Westbrook. Westbrook is one of those towns. So we have Westbrook right now has 3 resident state troopers that are assigned strictly to the town of Westbrook. They oversee and handle all police-related matters, but they're also supplemented by, I believe they have 6 part-time constables.
I think so.
Which are basically the officers driving around in the Westbrook police cars. So every town's a little unique as far as when it comes to the state police jurisdiction. The majority of them do have what's called resident state troopers. And I was a resident state trooper for 5 years of my 23-year police career. 2 years in the town of Haddam and 3 years in the town of Old Lyme. And it's really a tremendous position because you really get to know the townsfolk and the business owners in these small communities. And you become kind of like the Sheriff Andy Taylor of Mayberry. It's really, that's how I would describe it. And it's a good program. And the whole idea behind it is that it's a cost-effective program to provide high-quality law enforcement for these smaller communities.
Right, exactly.
So it's great.
And so what are some of the things that you've seen over your career?
Oh my goodness, I've seen quite a bit, bad and good.
Okay.
Obviously, as state troopers, we deal with a high amount of motor vehicle related issues such as accidents and things along that sort. And unfortunately, some of those accidents do involve injuries or fatalities.
Right.
And that's why it's a very strong mission of the state police to really work hard on public safety and public knowledge of the law enforcement, of the traffic laws throughout the state, as well as enforcing the traffic laws.
Right.
Everybody thinks, oh, geez, the troopers are out there, they're going to give me a ticket. Well, the whole idea of issuing a ticket is to curtail that driving behavior. So, when we get people speeding 80 plus miles an hour on the interstate, well, that's problematic when the speed limit's only 65. So.
Exactly.
So, the troopers are out there, they're just doing their job. The aggressive drivers cutting in and out of traffic is a problem. Obviously, drunk driving is a huge problem, as it always has been. Our troopers really work hard at combating that. And basically, in the world that we live in right now, we all know that social media and texting and cell phone distractions is a big, big problem with driving. And obviously, Connecticut does have laws in place to address that. And our troopers do, and the local police officers as well, do the best that we can to enforce those laws. But it comes down to manpower and and being out there and observing those violations and taking the proper action.
Exactly, and I know recently that for preparing for tonight, I actually rode with you for a day.
Yes.
And you and I saw a lot of interesting things.
Yes, the day in the life of a state trooper,
Right.
Here in Connecticut is pretty unique.
Right.
You never know what's going to happen. Obviously, we work through the entire state of Connecticut. There are state police barracks that are more of a rural setting, and then we have state police barracks like when you rode around with me down at Troop G in Bridgeport,
Right.
where it's pretty much a highway patrol type setting.
Yeah.
And it's you just don't know what's going to go on every day you go in, which it really is kind of like a big draw to a lot of us to get involved in law enforcement.
Exactly.
I like the idea of not knowing what's going to go on that day, and then if something does happen, we have to be very quick on our feet, utilize our training and experience and the knowledge of the laws to figure out how to address whatever that particular situation may be.
Exactly. And what are some of the situations that you've had to address?
Oh my goodness, I could sit here. I don't think we have enough time on the show, Pete,
Yeah, sure we do.
But I delivered a baby. That was pretty interesting when I was very young on the job.
Really?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. That was quite the experience. I was in my younger 20s, and they sent me to a house for a woman that was in labor, and her contractions were 3 minutes apart.
Uh-oh.
Now, understand that in our police training, we are trained as basically medical responders, which includes childbirth.
Right.
With that being said, at that point, I did not have any children, and childbirth was kind of like the farthest thing from my mind.
Yeah.
So when that issue arose, I was responding. I was trying to say to myself, geez, 3 minutes apart. Does that mean the baby's coming soon, or do I have a little bit of time?
No.
So I kind of figured it out, went there, and sure enough, the woman was by herself at the house in full labor. The baby came out healthy. My training took over, and luckily everything worked out well. So that was a pretty unique experience for a young man on the job.
Wow.
I've been involved with car chases, which are extremely dangerous. We really are very cautious with motor vehicle pursuits and car chases.
Right.
We have a very strict policy which governs that. So I've been involved in many, many of those. We see people sometimes at their worst in this line of work. And whether we have to go to a house for a domestic violence type situation, or somebody's house was burglarized and they're victims of a burglary, somebody who was held up at gunpoint in a robbery,
Right.
At car accidents where people get hurt. It's a lot of things that we go to. We really have to kind of calm the nerves of the people because they were exposed to sometimes a pretty traumatic situation.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, and it's really our job, and we work hard at it to try to calm the situations down, investigate what needs to be investigated, and basically come to the conclusion of why this happened, how this happened. If it leads to somebody being arrested, well, obviously we have to have the proper justification to do that.
Right.
And being a state trooper, we have an awesome amount of authority and responsibility.
Okay.
So that's got to be very closely, I guess, not supervised, but we just don't arbitrarily arrest somebody because that's going to you're taking away their freedoms.
Right.
So we have to develop, obviously, what's called probable cause. And so it's all part of the investigation process. So, it's some days you feel like a counselor on this job. Some days you feel like a law enforcement officer. Sometimes you're talking to children, almost like in a teacher setting.
Right.
So, again, every day I go back to every day. You just don't know what's going to happen. It could be different. And in the 28 years I've been doing it, it's been very rewarding, I should say. Yeah, it's been a really rewarding career. And even at this point in time, I love putting a uniform on every day and going to work.
Exactly. And from like I said with my previous guest tonight, where you are in Bridgeport, you guys actually run the DOT cameras.
We do. So down at Troop G in Bridgeport, it's the only state police barracks in the state that has this setup. So when the Troop G barracks was moved to Bridgeport in 1995, because prior to that it was a small barracks located in Westport.
Okay.
So when they moved it to Bridgeport, DOT came in there with us, and they put up the camera monitoring system in coordination with the Department of Transportation.
Right.
So in our dispatch center, we have a trooper and 2 state police dispatchers in there, as well as 3 DOT camera operators and dispatchers. So when we get a 911 call about a particular accident in a certain area, the DOT operators bring up that area, locate the accident before the troopers can even get there. So we can dispatch the tow trucks, should it be blocking the lane, EMS if it's reported with injuries, and fire department. The whole idea behind that is what's called quick clearance, because obviously we know 95 traffic, especially from New Haven down to New York, it's pretty treacherous. We deal with it every single day, and having those cameras in place, it allows us to kind of assess the situation before the trooper gets there, make the notifications, and get the highway cleared up as soon as possible so we can get traffic moving nice and smooth to keep the commerce going.
Exactly. And what the other thing that I learned when you and I were together for the day is they actually have a roadside assistance program.
Yes, through the Department of Transportation, which is now sponsored by State Farm Insurance.
Okay.
They have what's called the Traffic Service Patrol.
Yep.
So, and they're all over the state. They're not just down there in 95.
Right.
They're up in this area of 95. So what they do is anybody who's broken down or having a tire issue or whatever the case may be, a DOT Service Patrol truck, we will call them to the scene to help out to square that car away, to kind of do what we can to get them going again.
Exactly.
It's free of charge to the people on the side of the highway. It's paid for, well, it was paid for by tax dollars. It still is to a certain point, but it's also through State Farm Insurance. And I believe State Farm sponsors these type of projects, probably like 8 or 9 other states.
Wow.
So yeah, it's really a great program. And if we have an accident scene out there, they'll show up because they have the aero boards and the crash truck to protect us while being out there investigating these accidents too. So it's really a great program.
It seems like a very, very cool program.
Yeah, it sure is. Sure is.
Trooper Derry, would you mind sticking around for another second?
I would love to stick around, Pete. Appreciate it.
We'll be right back.
Thank you.
Really? Buzz, what's up, man? You left some leaves burning out here.
Yeah, I just came in just for a second.
Come on, man. If it's too hot to touch, it's too hot to leave. You could torch the whole neighborhood.
It's a good point there, Smokey.
9 out of 10 wildfires are caused by humans.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
And welcome back to this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show. Sitting here with Sergeant Rob Derry from the Connecticut State Police. Trooper Derry, welcome back.
Thank you, Peter. Appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Thanks for sticking around. All right. So let's open up this segment talking about the state police recruiting and training.
So right now we always are looking for high quality individuals that have a strong desire to get involved with the Connecticut State Police.
Okay.
Recruiting goes on 365 days a year. We do have a recruiting unit that has a sergeant and a trooper as well as some civilian staff. They go out to colleges and high schools and other career events. Basically, just telling people what the Connecticut State Police are all about.
Right.
There is kind of a issue going on nationwide right now about law enforcement recruiting. The numbers are kind of down. I think a lot of it has to do with some of the issues that's been going on nationwide involving law enforcement and some of the stigma that's out there. But we do have a great department, and you probably won't get somebody that's more of a cheerleader about the state police than I am. And I just it's something that you really want to do. Mm-hmm. To me, it's not a job. To me, it's a way of life.
Exactly.
I'm eligible to retire at 20 years of state service. I have 23, so I'm here. Well, I'm here because I still need a job.
Yeah, right.
But I still actually enjoy it, like I keep mentioning. So when it comes down to the recruiting, we're looking for really good people. The training is pretty intense. We have about a 20% attrition rate
Okay.
within our state police training. For instance, there is a class, recruit training class that started the first week of January of this year.
Right.
So here we are towards the end of March, and they had 53 recruits invited to the day one of training. Right now, they're down to 32. So a lot of those people quickly realized that this was not for them.
This is not for me.
So, we'd like to have a high percentage of graduates. However, our training is done for a certain reason.
Right.
There's a method to it. It's been time tested. It works well. And it really comes down to building an individual up to be a state trooper.
Right.
Like I mentioned previously, we have a really great amount of responsibility and authority as state troopers. So we just don't hand that out to anybody. It's got to be earned.
Exactly.
And you have to be able to demonstrate that you can properly administer that authority and that responsibility. So our training is very hard. In my career, I have been through the local police academy, and as well as the state police academy. Being a local police officer, I went through that training, and obviously being a state trooper, we have our own academy. So regardless of what line of work you come from, whether you're an FBI agent, whether you're a local police officer, if you want to be a Connecticut State Trooper, you have to attend and get selected for the Connecticut State Police Academy.
Now, is there a difference between the training to be a police officer on your local level as compared to being training for becoming a state trooper?
Well, there are a little bit of difference. One of the differences is that the Connecticut State Police train our own. We have state troopers that are on staff at the academy, and commanded by a state police lieutenant who's the commanding officer of the academy.
Okay.
Then you have a couple sergeants. I was on staff at the training academy 4 years ago.
Okay.
And there's about 18 troopers that are designated as instructors that are full-time at the State Police Training Academy. Whereas the local police academy, being that they take in police recruits from a multitude of local police departments.
Right.
So it's not like there's one department to go from. So they have a multitude of different instructors that come in and teach whatever their expertise is in that particular area. Right now, our training academy is 30 weeks long.
Wow.
You go there Monday morning at 5 o'clock in the morning, and usually don't get out until about 10 o'clock Friday night.
Wow.
And your days are full. They're very, it's high stress, but there's a lot of academics involved. There's a great amount of physical fitness and training.
Yep.
You come out of there probably the best shape in your life if you successfully graduate the State Police Training Academy. And there's nothing like it.
No.
When I was in the academy, they said there's probably 3 days in your life you're going to remember. The day that you got married, the day your first child is born, and the day you graduate the State Police Academy, because it is hard work. But it's with hard work comes great rewards. It's again, like I talked before, I'm very positive about my job, and this job has provided greatly for me and my family, and I've had a lot of cool experiences. The local police academy, they do a great job up there because it's the same building, it's a separate training.
Gotcha.
They have a lot of top-notch instructors up there for the local police academy, but ours is more geared towards like a military. It's called a paramilitary type setting. Okay. Where we salute the ranking officers. It's very, very regimented. It's stressful, but there's a method behind it and there's a meaning behind it.
Exactly.
The local police academy, I think, is a little more watered down as far as that kind of thing goes. They do an excellent job training. They get a great amount of training, and they do an awesome job up there. But it's just different. It's not better. It's not worse. It's just different.
Gotcha.
And if you look around nationwide, state police academies are all kind of built on those same type of fundamentals.
Oh, yeah. Now, as far as, I actually had Trooper Kelly Grant on with me not long ago, and Trooper Grant and I talked about not only wearing the uniform and being a police officer, but let's talk about it with you as far as being involved in the community when you have the uniform on.
Correct.
As far as what's going on, if you have to go speak or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, well, I do a lot of public speaking type things.
Okay.
I just did last week, I think about a week and a half ago, I did a career day over at the Morgan High School.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, which was
how was it?
It was great.
Wow.
It was great. I did the law portion of the day with with an attorney from a law practice up in Hartford,
Okay.
as well as Officer Popovich, who's the school resource officer for the
Yep.
police department.
Oh, yeah.
And it was very well received. I enjoyed it. I talked a lot about what the state police are all about, what the qualifications are to become a state trooper, the training like we just talked about, basically what the job is all about, and how many opportunities you can have. See, with the state police, we have about just under 1,000 troopers statewide.
Okay.
So it's a pretty large police agency. I want to say we are the third largest police agency in New England.
Okay.
The only two that are larger than us are the Massachusetts State Police,
Yeah.
and I believe maybe the Boston Police Department. But short of that, we have a good-sized police agency. So with that comes a lot of different opportunities as far as your job, the units you can go to, the different things you could be exposed to. Just for instance, in my career,
Yes.
I started out as a patrol trooper up the Litchfield Barracks.
Yep.
Never been to Litchfield before in my life until the day I got stationed there. And it was a beautiful, beautiful area.
Oh, yeah.
I was up in the town of Kent one day and I thought I was in the state of New York. I had asked my field training officer, are we still in Connecticut?
Yeah, where are we?
Yeah, it's gorgeous. So that was a great experience. And then I was a patrol trooper down at the Bridgeport Barracks for a time. Again, I mentioned before, I was a resident trooper in Haddam for a couple years. I was a resident trooper in Old Lyme for about 3 years. Then I got promoted to sergeant, and you start moving around again. So I went back down to Bridgeport as a sergeant for a short time. I was at Bethany Barracks, just north of New Haven.
Sure.
Came back to Westbrook for quite a while, and now I'm back at Troop G in Bridgeport. But within that time frame, I was also, like I mentioned, as a sergeant on staff at the training academy, which was a great experience.
Right.
And also I was on staff with a lieutenant colonel, basically who runs the day-to-day operation of the entire state police. So I was one of the staff sergeants in that role, and I really learned a lot about the business side of the state police and why decisions are made from our leadership. And it was really an eye-opening, rewarding experience. So it's, my career has went by like a flash, still moving, and like I said, I just can't. I'm very fortunate, and I'm a very lucky individual that I like going to work. 'Cause I know there's a lot of people out there that really don't care to go to their job every single day. So I'm very fortunate. I recognize that, and it's been phenomenal.
Now, Sergeant Derry, tell us about how does the Connecticut State Police provide assistance to local police and federal law enforcement agencies?
So as state troopers,
Yes.
we're involved with a lot of different things, like I mentioned before, between the resident trooper program and patrolling the highways. But we have different units. For instance, one of we have what's called the major crime unit.
Yep.
So every barracks has a major crime unit, which is a sergeant and probably about 4 detectives assigned to each barracks. And they also have the major crime van. So when these police departments have a significant event, such as a serious assault and murder,
Right.
Something that really requires meticulous evidence gathering, we have troopers that are specifically trained to do that. And our detectives will go in and work alongside the detectives from that police department. And it's been my experience in my career that we really work hard on working well with everybody.
Right.
And it really fosters a lot of good relationships across the state, as well as the federal authorities. If there's a bank robbery that occurs in a state police jurisdiction town, well, we're going to have our detectives out there, as well as an FBI representative will usually be there. So we work well there. We have a multitude of different task force.
Okay.
With the FBI, with the ATF, with the Secret Service. So our troopers are involved with a lot of different agencies in those type of settings. We also have what's called an accident reconstruction squad,
Okay.
which will go out, and these guys, it's a sergeant and 6 troopers. Anytime, and some of these serious motor vehicle accidents can be quite a mess.
Oh, yeah.
And we have to determine how it happened. So our troopers who are specifically trained for this will come out and obviously help our troopers out, but they also go out to these communities, the police departments that maybe don't have the resources that the state police have. And our troopers will go in and assist them, and again, work alongside with them. And we're very lucky in the state of Connecticut because we all really work well together for the common goal of getting the job done
Right.
and providing the public safety. So it's really very rewarding.
It sounds like it's a very rewarding career.
Yeah.
Now let's talk. I know we haven't talked about this yet, and we've got a little bit more time left for tonight. Let's talk about how important social media is in your role as far as what's going on.
Well, social media, a lot of things over the years as social media has evolved. We, on top of just doing our public information office where they disseminate information through social media,
Right.
That's one thing that really has grown a lot over the years. However, now we have investigative tools at our disposal. So our troopers will, say, investigate a home burglary where items were stolen.
Right.
Well, some of these people who steal these items may be posting to try to sell these items online. You know, instead of going to the pawn shop like they used to do years ago, and they still do, they may be on Craigslist or one of those social media sites, and there's a lot of them.
Oh yeah.
Where they try to sell items. And so our troopers will use social media and try to track down through social media some of the stolen items. And that will lead, that's just another investigative lead to try to determine who committed these crimes.
Exactly.
So our troopers are using social media quite a bit as an investigative aid, an investigative tool as part of our investigations. Another thing too involved in social media, we go back to recruiting and trying to get the highest quality people. Well, one of the things that the detective will do when they do your background investigation in our selection process is to look at your social media and what you have posted, what it's all about.
Sergeant Derry from the Connecticut State Police, thanks for coming down. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
That's it for tonight's show. I'm Pete Mezzetti on behalf of Sergeant Derry. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.